Happy that you're all here. Though the weather is so bad, I'm really happy that you all made it. So welcome. And I want to thank first the GVSHP for hosting this, for having us here, for having me here tonight, and for the Summer Bundi Club to host this. This is a wonderful place. It's the second time that I'm here, and I always enjoy that. It's a beautiful place. So thank you very much. I want to do three things tonight. I want to tell you mostly about the reasons why I made this book, what drove me. Ted has already mentioned some of the reasons for that. In the second part, I will try to introduce the underlying concept, how I went about it, how to make this book happen, with its different functions. It's a photo book, it's an interactive guessing game which you can play at home. You can take that book along with you on your trips to the city. But it's also a very personal way of coping with the speed the city changes while I was just arriving here and trying to get to know it. And in the third part, I will try, let's see how much we can do in our time frame. I walked around in the last weeks and took some more photos in the neighborhoods, east and west villages, NoHo a little bit, to put a little bit more pictures on which are not in the book, and but it might be interesting to play the guessing game about that. Okay, so let's get started. This is one of the first pictures in the book. Can you hear me okay, or should I go closer? Is this okay? Okay. I would like to take you along for a little trip around the 5 boroughs from the year 1524, when Giovanni di Verrazzano came, till 2014, but it won't take that long. It's 490 years of New York history. And I span this time frame and all the locations in this book. So this is basically the beginning. The Verrazzano Narrows, called after he came in. He didn't dare to go on land because he was not sure what to make of the people, the natives sitting around and trying to get in touch with him. So they checked basically out the New York Bay, and then decided to move on. So, and the counterpart of it is this. I don't know if you can see what it is. Anybody knows already what we see here? This is a new tunnel under the World Trade Center, part of the transportation hub built by Santiago Calatrava. So this just opened in October, and I think it's just on the last weekend where the next part of this whole transportation hub opened up. I haven't been there yet since the weekend, but it must be absolutely fabulous. So since the book is organized as a guessing game, I would like to ask you to play with me, and that makes sure that you don't fall asleep on me. So if you recognize something, just raise your hand and say what it is, and so we have a little bit of fun with each other. Otherwise, I have to do all the talking. Yes?
I just wanted to comment that it's the 50th anniversary of the building the Verrazzano Bridge today. I mean, they just commemorating it.
Right, thank you very much. Yeah, indeed. And I saw, I don't know, when was that? Some days ago I saw on some of the public channels there was this awful movie, Saturday Night Fever, and there's a scene in it where they hang out on this bridge all the time, and at some point, what's his name? John Travolta sits there and tells his love interest that one of the construction workers fell into the fundaments while they were pouring the concrete into it. So that might be worth some closer inspection anyway of this building. Okay, I would say let's make a test and see what you know already, and we make it very easy in the beginning. Anybody knows who that is? Okay, which one? That is Patience, right? And do you know why it's called Patience? Who named it Patience? LaGuardia, right. And where patience and fortitude, because that would be virtues which you needed to go through the depression. So that was a nickname, and before that they were called Leo Astor and Leo Lennox, and they had a lot of nicknames in the meanwhile. That one is pretty easy too, I'm sure you know that too. Bull, yeah. The interesting thing is everybody who's not living here thinks it is standing on Wall Street, but it isn't on Wall Street. It's standing on Bowling Green. But it was once on Wall Street. In 1987, when Arthur Modica built the sculpture and placed it in a kind of guerrilla action in front of the Wall Street before the stock exchange. just to put it out in the open and to see if somebody would like it or not. And the police impounded the sculpture and kept it, and finally people started protesting, said we want the sculpture back, so they finally agreed, and the city gave them a place now in Bowling Green, where it's standing to the day. Okay. And here's another easy one. Sausage Depot, yeah, and we're looking down into John Street and what is now the financial district, right? Okay. I will tell you a little bit about me and why I made this book. Yeah, that's me. I came here, as Ted said, in 2006 from Germany. Call it luck or destiny, or I came honestly mostly for love. I landed just half a block away from Tompkins Square and lived there to the day, in the very center of what was once known as Klein Deutschland, or Little Germany. And as a studied historian and art historian, this is a treasure trove for me to see where my ancestors came. My family is living in Germany. We are spread out now through Switzerland and Belgium and all over the place, but it was very interesting to see how long Germans lived in this country, how they helped forming New York at some point, and how they assimilated to the Americans. I think more than a lot of other ethnic groups here in the city. But this was really a very interesting spot, because people around Tompkins Square Park were predominantly German at some time, and they had German Broadway, which is known now as Avenue B. You had this stretch from 14th Street to nearly Houston. You had the Bowery with all the theaters and beer halls and the marksmanship clubs and something like that. So it was really, really interesting to land exactly here at that spot, and basically to continue being German, to see what has been here, including the general Slocum disaster, which then basically was the end of the Germans in Lower Manhattan or in downtown. But first, when I came here, I wanted to get to know the lay of the land. I wanted to double check reality with what I thought I would know so well from Germany, from TV and film and the movies, wherever you see something. So I wanted to get the bigger picture and just see what's really there. And I started riding the MTA. I had a bicycle before I even moved here. I had already a bicycle in New York. But mostly I did what good New Yorkers do. I walked all over the place. And sometimes I went to Google Maps and scoped out some areas where I wanted to go and to see what's around there. And sometimes you find very curious stuff there. You might be familiar with this. It's just the southern tip of Lower Manhattan. And I came a little bit closer to this. And on 77 Water Street, I noticed a complete airstrip with a vintage biplane on top, an airfield strip, which is still there to the day. Absolutely fantastic. But most of it I found basically by walking around. And there were very curious things in between. Here we have some wild parrots at Greenwood's Cemetery. We have elephants coming out of the Midtown Tunnel on the Elephants March. We have an Egyptian obelisk in Central Park and its counterpiece, a rocket out in Queens at the World Fair in Rocket Corona Park. And last not least, the only freestanding Lenin statue in New York, which is right here on Houston Street at the Red Square apartment buildings. And we look here through Norfolk. And last not least, Peter Stuyvesant, who was everywhere in this area. You find some remnants or reminders of him. This one, anybody knows where this is? Yeah, exactly. That's on 15th Street, Stuyvesant Square Park. Yeah, very good. The tripod, as I call it. So often I walk around with my wife, Kate, and she's a born and raised Manhattanite. And I found that always vexing. She went on and on and on and said, this was here, that was there, I miss McHale's, this is gone. And I got really frustrated with that because we saw these signs over and over in the city, and I was really frustrated because I wanted to get to know the city, not the city of the past. But I heard so much about the past that I had hardly time to find the real one. But I suddenly saw a shuttered storefront here and a closed diner or dive bar over there, and so on and so on. And at some point I thought I knew more vanished places than actually existing ones here. And sure enough, the real estate developers often replenished quickly what was left of our fair city, at times with something better, but often with something worse. So this is a typical view. Anybody knows where that is? I don't need a house number, but any idea where it could be? Yeah, it's on the Bowery, right. And that's a long time gone, and you see this, oops, how that works. You see this dreaded sign here. That usually means the house is deemed structurally unsound, and it might collapse at any given moment. You're not allowed to walk in there anymore because it could collapse on you. That means when you see that sign, there's nobody in it anymore, and this is doomed for demolition anyway. So a very frustrating thing. So my wife was right. New York was disappearing, and within a few months I found myself quetching along with her lamentations. And that was when I noticed that I suppose I really became a New Yorker. I understand that the city is driven by permanent forceful change, and that is the case since the first Dutch settlers pitched their tents here. Artists have always documented the rapid change here, and just to name one of so many, Berenice Abbott masterfully captured the essence of the ever-molting city in her 1939 book, Changing New York. She may have chronicled one of the most active periods of the city's transformation, but the city's permanent self-renewal continues at an incredible pace. Or Henry once quipped, "It will be a great place if they ever finish it, and I hope they will never do that." Little switch. I show you the place where I'm from originally. I was born in Aachen. That's about 40 miles southwest of Cologne in Germany, on the border to Belgium and the Netherlands, which was settled around 2500 BC and was founded as a city by the Romans in the 1st century AD. I switch on here a little bit. Here you see my high school in the foreground. The one here, the double towers, is the place where until the 16th century the German kings were crowned. And this is part of the emperor's palace, and this is the old cathedral and this is both built in the mid-8th century. So on my way to school, I walked through old city walls, and I had all this history thing going on, though my place in Aachen was destroyed to 80% during the Second World War, but there was so much history and layers of history. There are archaeological digging sites and everything. So history is something I just grew up with. And I would certainly not expect to see that much old history when I came over to New York, but this is my baggage, and this is how I look at things and walk around and try to see the different layers in time when I walk to a place. And New York is so full of this. It starts a little bit later, but the amount of layers and stories happening in one place is here not less dense than anywhere else in Europe, I would say. One interesting thing I just walked by was this very curious thing. Anybody knows what that is? It's on Water Street down there, yeah. Pearl. This is the old fountain of the Lovelace Tavern, built in 1670, when the bank, Goldman Sachs, was trying to build their new headquarters down there. They found these remnants, and the archaeologists were looking around for the Stadthaus, for the old town hall from that time, and couldn't find it, but they found this neighboring tavern, and this is basically forced upon on the bank to preserve this. And you walk around there and you see several of these structures where you see underground, there are remnants left, nothing very fancy, it's just the rest of a fireplace or here of a well, but at least you can look down, and there are several places down there, and they found recently remnants of an old cargo ship on the World Trade Center side. They found arrowheads at that place where, what is this called? There's one building which has a mirror facade at the very end of Lower Manhattan at the Staten Island Ferry Terminal, where they found arrowheads. And there's a lot of old remnants still preserved. Before you can build new, you can bring people in. Let's check what we find from the old times there. As far as I know, the oldest structures here in the city date back to the beginning of the 17th century. A if I'm not mistaken, and please correct me if I'm wrong, we find structures from the year around 1600 even on Staten Island. So before we were getting anywhere with building a city, Staten Island was already in action. They had cattle down there and taking care of it. So everything what is older is basically imported. You know where we are here? Cloisters, yeah, very good. So we happened to travel along southern France some years ago and came along these areas where I thought, wait a moment, I remember all these names. This is where Rockefeller took all that stuff away. Some of it landed here in New York. The churches or abbeys were taken down anyway after the French Revolution and were in bad disrepair. So and suddenly they resurfaced in New York again. But we are living in other times and the pace of changes is breathtaking. What happens here these days is more than dynamic development. I have a feeling that New York is about to lose its very diversity and its very soul. I'll show you one of the newer buildings. Any idea where this is? Standard Hotel. Why do you think we have this curtain open? Nobody knows? Okay. Okay, it has a reputation to be a place for exhibitionists, so if you stand there for half an hour, you see all these curtains opening and some naked people show themselves off. It's a very, very weird place built over the High Line. I loved it just as a photo with the colors and everything, and I was standing there waiting for my shot and suddenly all these curtains go open. I thought, oh my, what's happening here? So, but the resistance against the overdevelopment in the area is alive and well since the days of Jane Jacobs, and one still might get just desperate over the losses we encounter. On the first glance, preservation in New York seems to be an unloved duty, as we saw with the Lovelace Tavern. It seems to be only in the way of dynamic development and profit, but there's so much else, and I have the feeling that this scenario is a little bit less black and white and less contradictory when you come to Europe. For me, as a European who immigrated, it's still a very weird feeling that it's an either or. It's not possible to live in your past, but you have to tear it all down and build something new, and otherwise it doesn't work. And I'm happy that we have preservation groups here who help coming with a different approach to this. This is another typical thing. This is, I've forgotten what it's called, Popeyes, I think. Just one of these food chains who are rolling into the city all over the place. On the right side, this blue building caused, basically the new tenants caused that the tonic club had to close its doors because suddenly the people moving in were complaining about that there's a music club on the street. And this was a famous music club with famous concerts going on. So this is changing the neighborhoods radically with an impact, which we know from older times, we know that from Soho, we know it from everywhere. But I have a feeling the pace is just picking up like crazy these days. So, but luckily we're not alone. We have advocacy groups like the GVSHP. There are all kinds of neighborhood groups and block associations and engaged people all over the map who try to keep alive and safe what we're about to lose here. And then there are journalists like Jeremiah Moss, I have to mention him today, chronicles in his blog, The Vanishing City. Are you all familiar with this blog? It's at times very depressing. He is in the moment an action going on to save Cafe Edison around Times Square, which didn't get a new lease, so they are about to close at the end of the year if nothing happens. So he's going activist, and he tried to organize lunch mobs that people show up there and to try to speak out to keep a place. But in his texts, he's writing for newspapers, he has his own blog. He points out the steamrolling hyper-gentrification and how, next to the big money, a new suburban mindsets destroys what we all love here. Give this man a book contract, please. I think he deserves it. There are photographers like James and Carla Murray who document in their photography and interviews what we are about to lose or have already lost. I don't know if you know their work. They have made these fantastic books about storefronts in New York and New York nights where they revisit the same places, and they're just working on a project where they went 10 years after they started taking their first photos to the same places and see what happened there in the meanwhile. And it's heartbreaking to see. And one of the first things I saw disappearing here was the old 2nd Avenue Daily on 2nd Avenue, which is now in Chase Manhattan Bank, and you walk by there and people are wondering why is these stars in the sidewalk, what has that to do with the bank, and they can't connect anymore because everything is wiped away. And you have a feeling the standard development of an intersection in New York is having a bank branch, a drugstore, a chain drugstore, and a bar. And that is about everything which can subsist these days. So, by the way, the Murrays are speaking also for the Greenwich Village Historical Society for Historical Preservation, sorry, had to have it today. They're speaking on December 7th, also about their book at the 6th Street Community Center, and I wholeheartedly recommend you go there. Their work is absolutely fantastic. So these local bloggers and artists reach people who don't know or not necessarily interested in the topic of preservation, but now they take notice and develop awareness for their endangered surroundings. In the best case, it leads to more participation in the political process and more power for preservationists. And even as a relative New York newbie, I have seen certain losses here. So from that point, I have a bunch of reasons to have made this book. But I'm most happy if it helps at least some people to walk around with open eyes and appreciate their surroundings more than before. Maybe they even step up when these places get endangered. There's so much worth keeping in our lives. This one was the very first picture I took. Anybody knows where we are here? Coney Island? Coney Island?
At the roller coaster.
Yeah, it's a roller coaster, exactly. So that was a photo I found more or less per random in my velters of photos I have on my hard drive at home, and I thought, wow, there's just this, I think I just wanted to get this here. And at first I didn't pay too much attention to this, and when I looked at the photo I thought, wait a moment, that tells me so much. I know exactly there's one place in New York City where this can be taken. Because much of New York is so iconic that you recognize it even in a little detail. And so I developed the idea, okay, we can work with this and make something else with this. So that triggered basically how to make the book, and that brings me to part 2 of my talk, how to create this book. Making a book, the conception, the development, and the actual making is a very exciting process, and I have to admit it's my first one, and I'm still working on the fine heights. So the work is not over when the book is printed, I learned. The hard part starts then. I had the idea, I didn't want to make just another tourist guide or city guide. I wanted to make a book which works for tourists and for residents alike. It should work in your armchair as well as your vademecum, which you take with you. It should work as something which makes for a nice conversation piece, but also makes you aware of what's around you, where you live and what you do there. I wanted to include, show you 2 of the innards. I wanted to include a map for better usability. That's this one. And I also came up with the idea while I was putting the photos together to write what I call an index, but it's basically a collection of short tidbits about all the locations which we have in the photos. But I didn't want to give that away while I showed the photos, so I tried to keep that separated from each other. So I go back for a second here. So you see there's no text, no solution, no description of what we see, because you really should guess. And at the end you can look it up here in this index and learn a little bit about what you might not have known before. Okay, so let's go on for some pictures, and I will tell you my 10 points, how I made this book work, I think. So every location had to be clearly identifiable as a single, unique location. And I show you something here from the villages. This one is easy, I guess, right? Yeah, Washington Square, exactly. It's seen from down below, and I thought, okay, that was built for a parade, and while people were walking under it, when it was still built on gypsum, it was a different material, I think. That must have been the view while they walk under this window, while it was still a temporary structure, and it was just very nice to see that at dusk.
Castaways.
No,
Used to have that, they just had that in there.
they had that in there
Yes,
too?
they did.
Oh, interesting. This is on Great Jones, that's a Great Jones Cafe on Great Jones Street. So he's standing there, aging away. Okay, so that was already a bit tricky, right? So then I said to myself, every location has to be within the 5 boroughs of New York. And even if this looks like New England, anybody knows where that is? It's not too far away from here. It's on First Avenue and First Street. I forgot who built it. Basically, I never found out, but it's still there. Somebody built it on top, and we find a similar construction on, 3rd Avenue and 13th Street, I think, or 12th Street. There's a similar little house. It looks like New England on the rooftop somehow. But this is down on First and First. Anybody knows where this is? Yeah, on 2nd Avenue, right. And I just read about that today. That was basically, it was built for the Senator Evarts. I have his first name here, William Maxwell Evarts, who was senator between 1885 and 1901. He was also Secretary of State and Attorney General of the United States. And he died in 1901, and this building is a new building, so that was only dedicated after his death to the place where he used to live before. Okay, this one I love as a photo, but it didn't qualify for the book because I'm beyond the city limits. It's taken some summers ago. I had the chance to go out on the Long Island Sound, and you see here the Manhattan skyline in the background, and it was a beautiful day, but it's too far away to qualify for the book. Okay, another rule I made up for my book was that it has to be publicly accessible, because I want you to be able to share this and go to the same places and see it with your own eyes and get your own idea of how to see a place. So this is pretty straightforward. I don't have to point that out where it is. Everybody's familiar with it, I assume. Yeah, right. From Robert, Indiana, 57, right? And that is pretty straightforward, but rules are that broken, so sometimes I put something in where I thought, okay, not everybody has a chance to get there. Friends of mine were at a hotel on 48th Street on Broadway, and I just had a little slit in the window, can open it just a tiny bit, and I could squeeze the camera out and take the shot, so that was really fun. And I think, again, you can look around the elements in the photo, and you can point out where something is, and you can locate where you are in the city clearly. Okay, and then what about people? I try to keep as little people as possible in the book. I think it's actually only 3. I really try to keep it at bay. One of them just walked into my frame as I was taking a photo. It's one of our neighbors, and it's taken on our block where we live. But I thought he fit so perfectly into it, I have to leave this in. He had this classic stance of just walking around. So it was really nice, but usually I try to keep people a little bit more abstract. By the way, does anybody know where this is, the mural?
9th between A and First.
Wonderful. Yes,
I
perfect.
used to live there.
It's on the corner, it's Cafe Pick Me Up, yeah.
Yes, nice one.
Okay, so usually I try to keep it a bit more abstract, but still recognizable. Anybody knows where this is? Yeah, very good.
Where did you say?
And it's actually not a dancer in a tutu, but it's a girl with shopping bags. She was totally exhausted, flunking down, just sitting there with a cell phone. And all I saw was a dancer. And that's the last one with people in it. But they remind me so much of futurist art, where they're jumping through the lights and glittering away. I really love this shot. Anybody know where that is?
Yeah, Central Park, 72nd Street to 60th Street, that walkway.
Yeah, that's right at Bethesda Fountain.
Right.
When you go
Goes
in
to
there, and you look down the mall direction south. Okay, so that was about people, but I love to have sculptures in this in the book. Anybody knows this one? This is a real rarity. It's the only.
Brooklyn.
Brooklyn is very good.
Grand Army Plaza.
Very good, yes. And now tell me who it is.
Lincoln.
Lincoln, yeah, wonderful. Wow, I'm impressed. That's the only known horseback sculpture, where he's on horseback in the United States, as far as I know. And that's the inside of the arch on Grand Army Plaza. And on the other side is Ulysses S. Grant, also on horseback. And it's a fantastic program of sculptures and pictures on this arch anyway, to walk around and have a closer look. But I really love this one. Okay, I'll give you another one. You know what this is? Greenwood Cemetery, very good. That's Minerva, which was built so, on Battle Hill, where Washington was coming really under pressure by the English in late 1776. At the Battle of Long Island, about 6,000 Britons defeated 2,000 Americans at this place. And Minerva is a Roman goddess of battle and protector of civilized life. And the Inca King Charles M. Higgins built this Minerva as his burial site, and she's really waving over to, you see it here, the Statue of Liberty in the back. It's 3.5 miles across New York Harbor. And I think there's no written contract or so, but people try to keep this access free of development and building in between. Some years ago there was somebody tried to build something, and as far as I know, people protested against it and said, no, you have to keep this really visible because it's so remarkable. They cut down the trees on the cemetery so that you can keep this view. Good. Anybody knows where this is? Famous place, they're building there for more than 100 years already, and it's still not ready. St. John the Unfinished, right? Yes. It was a team, Simon Verity and Jean-Claude Marchioni, built 32 different figures for the Portal of Paradise, the main entrance to the Cathedral of St. John the Divine. This portal was built in 1997, but other parts of the church are away from completion. Just to get an idea how long they're building there, in 1887, an idea was developed to build this enormous Episcopal cathedral to rival the Roman Catholic St. Patrick's on Fifth Avenue. And yes, you can push it all the way inside into the main nave. It's crazy, the size of this. They put down the cornerstone in 1902. They built, and in 1911 the first section was opened. Then we had the First World War. Then in 1941, a week before the attacks of Pearl Harbor, they tried to do the end-to-end opening of the main nave. And then they had several other problems. One of the architects died, they had war, they had permanent underfunding, and a fire broke out just a week after the terror attacks in 2001. So they're still building on this, but this front part is opening. It has the famous blessing of the animals once a year. It's a wonderful place to go to, whether you are a member of the church or not. And the picture program of this portal is absolutely stunning. There's a birth scene, you see a DNA, all kinds of science and the cityscape is built into this portal there. That's really worth a trip. Okay, I'll give you another sculpture. Any idea where this is?
State Supreme Court at Madison Square.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, this is it's called The Force by Frederick William Rackstall, and he has wisdom on his left, and this is force on the right. So these two are guarding the entrance to the Appellate Courthouse. And let's go back to our neighborhood here a little bit. I'm sure you all know this one. Yeah, so that heard. Okay. It's a very nice story behind that. It's in the Superblock complex by IMK, and this was built in 1986 by I have to look his name up, Carl Nesja, Norwegian sculpture in 1968. It's 36 foot tall concrete sculpture. in close cooperation with Pablo Picasso, who made a little metal sculpture in 1954. He had made about 40 artistic depictions of a 20-year-old blonde pigtailed girl called Sylvette David, and against Picasso's habit, his relationship with the model was strictly platonic. I read about that at least. So she married later and moved on to England, where she started her own career as a painter. And to avoid the stamp of being merely amused, the famous painter, she signed her work in the first years with her married name Lydia Corbett. Okay, so you saw some photos which made it into the book. I want to show you some which had to fall out for several reasons. For example, this one had the problem, it was not publicly accessible. It's a view from...
Flatiron.
Yeah, very good. I had the very great chance to get once into the prow of the building and take a picture from right up there, but that's a rare joy, not everybody can go there, so I couldn't take it into the picture. This is a bit too generic. I was always quipping, this is where they keep the woman during the winter. This is on Coney Island on the beach. So nobody could pinpoint this because it could be anywhere in the city, right? This one, I would really wonder if anybody of you know this, where that is. Yeah, very good. Okay.
Where?
Yeah, I was in Richmond on Staten Island. There's a historic stretch of old buildings. We walked there several times, and for me it's always stepping into a totally different world. It looks a little bit like an open air museum. It's reconstruction. People run around in costumes for the period and everything. And I always think I'm somewhere in Europe or so. It looks totally weird to me. But I had a feeling it wouldn't work for the book, because when you come as a tourist, chances are you don't know this place, so I decided to leave these things out. Then there are some other ones which I really loved as a photo, but they just don't work because they're not clear enough. You can imagine it's somewhere in Chinatown, but who knows if it's East Broadway or something else. Same with this one, I really love the photo, and you probably can't even pinpoint where we are here. Any idea? It's during the Luminale Festival, and we see in the background the Verrazano Narrows Bridge, and it was just this little girl checking out what happens with her shadow when she stands in front of this film projector. And the last, yeah, this one, for example, I'm sure you know all this, yeah? Yeah, that's the Thai Memorial for 9/11, Branch Avenue, and 7th. And that was gone before we could pull the book together, and it's being built on it. It's a construction site when you walk by these days, so I decided, okay, a lot of people know this, but a lot of people won't know this, so it can't qualify, unfortunately, for the book, but I loved it really. Here's another temporary one. Any idea where that was?
It's Brooklyn Bridge, that was the waterfall.
Yeah, wonderful, thank you. That's Olafur Eliasson.
But it was on both sides.
Yeah, and I loved that. I just walked by there, and there was this car sitting there idling, watching if nobody goes into the waterfalls. And I think the New Yorkers didn't love this installation, which was several places in downtown along the East River. But I thought it was an interesting approach, but it wouldn't work in the book because it's too temporary that anybody would remember that in 5 or 10 years. And then there are places, I played this game a little bit on Flickr. I don't know if you know this photo platform. There's a group called Guess Where New York, where people throw these pictures at each other and try to find out where is what taken. And this is really too hard. This is right on Lexington Avenue, somewhere in the low 20s. It's a little fountain, a fake fountain standing in front of a nail studio. Everybody walks by there, but nobody ever sees this. And I just found it very funny that this headless person just stumbles with a bucket of water. Okay, so but what can we take? I wanted to avoid cliches as much as I could. So let's go on to Times Square, for example. Oh no, there's another one. This one, for example, came just too late. We had to finish making the book, and I took that one of the nights afterwards, and I love it, but it doesn't work. That's on 6th Avenue, the big boxes with all the publishers in it. So Times Square, it's easy to go loud and shrill and colorful on Times Square, but I didn't want to go this way. Here's another one, which I really love. This is George and Cohen. Give my regards to Broadway, or sculpture on Times Square. And in the background you see this advertising, and I got it right at the moment where the picture switched from a skyline view over to a view of an underground subway station. I don't know if you can decipher that really in the photo, but I thought, wow, this is so New York, it's all compressed into one. I really love this shot. But it is still too shrill and too cliche and whatever. So I'm getting closer to this. This is where Broadway and 7th Avenue are intersecting on Duffy Square. But I was still not happy with it. Though it was remarkable to have this place without anybody standing there, just great enough during the day. So I settled on this one for the book at the end, which is really one of my favorite shots of Times Square because it is really unusual. It's bad weather, it's a reflection in a puddle. You get immediately the grasp where we are and what we are looking at, but something takes you back and lets you think about it. Okay, recognizability. I go quickly with you. I think we're running out of time, so I will speed it up a little bit. I go quickly with you through a series of photos, and you just point it out quickly to me what it is. The Lagoon, very easy. Flatiron, very good.
Roosevelt Island. Roosevelt Island.
Roosevelt Island, yeah, we see Queensboro Bridge and Smallbox Hospital from Renwick. The Erie, very good. Here?
The Pierre Hotel?
Yeah, very good. And the Shannon Netherland, both together. One is shadow, one is a real building. So now it's getting slowly a little bit harder. This is pretty easy still. Yeah, Alliance building, right? The fountain in the front and the Sony building in the background. That is relatively easy. I skip that. Gramercy Park, so where are we here?
Oh, the planetarium.
It's very good. The planetarium at the Museum for Natural History. This one was relatively new. Staten Island Ferry, very good. And this one? No idea?
Standard oil building.
In the background, yes, but who's that in the foreground? Okay, I give it to you. It's a Daniel Chester French sculpture called America, which guards the entrance of the Alexander Hamilton U.S. Customs House. And I really love the stern look of this bird looking at you down while you're trying to enter this building. What are we looking here at? No idea? Try to invert your vision a little bit, maybe you get it then. Nobody? No. Okay, we're looking at the sarcophagi of Julia Dent Grant and Ulysses S. Grant in Grant's tomb. So we're just looking in between the marble staircase leading down to the wall, basically. Okay, and here's a real hard one. I had to put that in just for fun into the book. If anybody knows where that is, you're king of New York. It's down on Elizabeth Street, and it has been an old butcher's shop, which is turned into a gallery, and they have a gallery cat with a gallery cat door, and a gallery cat tour really for the holidays.
Elizabeth Street and where? What's the cross street? The cross street at Elizabeth?
Spring, Prince and Spring.
Okay.
It's opposite, pretty much opposite of the Albanese butcher. You remember that maybe? The other old butcher shop, red painted, very old man in there, was trying to sell humongous steaks. So it's a little bit north of St. Patrick's. Yeah, Old St. Patrick's. Old St. Patrick's. Yeah, south. Now I'm confused. Okay. But Prince and Spring is a good bet. The number is 237.5 indeed. So that's not an invention. Okay. I think that abstraction often helps a photo of cleaning it up into declutter it a little bit. Anybody knows where we are here? The Arsenal, right, the old armory in Central Park, which is now Parks Department headquarters. Very interesting place. This is again in the neighborhood. Astor Place, yeah, very good. And the kiosk, which was a reconstruction from, I think, '86. If you see the old movie, we saw that some years ago, The Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3. This is a place where all the buildings are there, but the kiosk isn't there at that time. And this is there's a famous scene where a cop car flips over while they're trying to bring the ransom of time to a place. And a wonderful view on Astor Place, how it looked in the 80s there. But this is all gone now. And we see the Wanamaker department store, which is now the seat of Facebook and AOL, Huffington Post. Everybody's moving in there. The new building, which is called the Death Star for some people in the neighborhood, 51 Astor Place is not even there yet, so we just see this one. Any idea where we are? Yeah. Unfortunately, that changed too. They have a new cabin now, a new cab, which is just square and not octagonal anymore, but I love that shot anyway. And here?
Grace building.
Grace building, very good in Bryant Park. I always call it what goes up comes down, because it grows from all the directions. Okay, I have to
Wonder
go
Wheel.
quickly, I know. The Wonder Wheel in Coney Island, very good. So that's what I said in the beginning. I stood in Coney Island and I was just looking at things, and I thought I immediately recognized just from seeing movies where I am in the city, and it works wonderfully. That could be two places in the city, but it's
Kids Bay?
Kids Bay Towers, very good by I.M. Pei again. And this was one from the neighborhood again. Where are we here?
Oh, the trapeze people? The trapeze people over on the west side?
Yeah, exactly. At the end of Houston Street, when you come to the water, it's the Peace School, and they're doing night practice there. And it's beautiful to stand there and see them swing and fly around, and that's really spectacular. Another one from the neighborhood. One of our local heroes.
Block drugs.
That's Block Drugs, yes, on 6th Avenue. Best pharmacist in the world. 6th Street,
Sixth
right?
Street, yeah.
6th Street and 2nd Avenue. And what we see here in the foreground is
Jen Spot.
work in progress by Jim Powers, or called Mosaic Man, who has built all these tile mosaics everywhere in the city with donated tiles, depicting the story of the East Village mostly. He has a long-going fight with the city about working on these lampposts, and he cut a deal, I think, sometime with Giuliani that he was allowed to keep working on 90 poles in the city, but the city still came and just takes his work down all the time. And he has done work on house facades and so on, but most famous are really his poles, where he tries to retell the story of a certain angle or corner in the city, what happened at this place or what institution there had been. And lately he was in the news because the renovation or the rebuilding of Astor Place, where he had so many poles, he wanted to have this work safe when they're ripping everything apart, and try to make a deal with the city again to say, can you please put this in storage and put it on the place again when we're done with it. And the city was not ready to give him a contract or assure him really that his place would go in safety during the renovations. So he went on and decided to take the mosaics down himself. And he said, no, I don't want to do this. I don't want to have it damaged or getting lost or whatever. I take the tiles down and reuse them for something else in the neighborhood. And I thought it was a pretty proud stance, and I really like his approach to this, to say, no, I don't let play around with this, it's too important. And I think he's not so full of himself. I had a very nice talk with him. I think he has a very nice approach to this, to take this down. Okay. Everybody knows that, right? And I find that so fascinating with photography. You take 3 lines and some drops of water, and everybody knows exactly where we are in the city because it is really so iconic. Okay, so I I give you some quick ones. I'm really speeding up now. How I read them, how I put the books together. Yeah, that's Intrepid. And what do we have here? Peking. Very good. So this was an absolute match in heaven to go into the book. I just want to show you quickly some combinations. This is the conservatory in Central Park where you have the model race boats, and Manhattan Henge where we have the sunset right in the street. And I put these two together. I always forget it. It's a Stella, right? No, yeah, it's a Stella. On the roof of the Metropolitan Museum, and the Silver Cup Studios with the rest of the subway and Queensboro Bridge. So these are very nice things which work together in pairings, and that was one of the biggest joys I had making this book, to throw 400 pictures down on the floor and start like playing a memory game to see what really goes with each other. I had a similar one year before. This is the Beresford on the left, and the Museum of Natural History with the planetarium. Here we have Columbus Circle with the Time Warner Center, and they work well together too. You know where this is? Tompkins Square Park, right? The Temperance Fountain, right? And we were there some years ago. This is on the 24th of December. And it was so warm we could sit there in t-shirts outside. The snow was melting, and it was foggy, and it was just a very bizarre atmosphere there.
What about the food emporium?
The Food Emporium? Yeah, exactly, under the 59th Street Bridge with Guastavino tiles. I don't know if you saw the exhibition recently at the Museum of the City of New York. It was wonderful. So that goes very well together, and its color scheme. I just speed up a little bit because I know we're running out of time. I work with letters, with shapes and colors, for example. Here we have the lighthouse under the George Washington Bridge, and this little Ferrari hangs in the Museum of Modern Art. We had these buildings before, Diamond District, 6th Avenue, and this is the New Museum, right? So I was just chugging along. This is a very funny story. I don't know if you're familiar with that. I always forget the countries who gave it. Kenya, Nigeria, and Nepal, after all, gave this as a gift to the United Nations. And the problem with it was, Kofi Annan was the Secretary General at that time. They get so many gifts, you have to put them somewhere on the grounds, and it was for sure the elephant is too big, it has to go outside. And the problem was it was anatomically correct, and it was a male. So I didn't know what to do with that. And then it's said that Kofi Annan himself came and said, no problem, build a hedge around it. So that's why he's shrouded in shrubbery. He's standing right in the corner of 1st Avenue and 49th Street by that sea. We tried to get there recently to get inside it, but they didn't let us because of ongoing construction. Another nice combination is down in Chinatown. I really speed up a little bit. Sometimes I combine these things over material. You see here the High Bridge Water Tower and the pedestrian and bicyclist ramp of the Williamsburg Bridge. That I had to take at 4 o'clock in the morning and try to hit Times Square without people. So I really had to pick a time, and that was the Roy Lichtenstein on top step on it, very, very obvious. And they just work with color and material again as a combination. This I thought is the most patriotic photo I could ever find for this book because it's red, white, and blue, and it's pretty much everything in it. It doesn't exist anymore this way. This is the last story I will really tell, but I love this photo. This is taken on, do you know where? The highlight, very good. So you know this photo. And this is not a real person there, but this is a painting of a person pulling the curtain aside and waving out to about 30,000 people who go by there every day and staring at her. So she's a Japanese artist. I've written her name down, but I don't find it. I'm sorry. And she painted that because she was so fed up with all these people gawking into her windows. She made similar protective shields for all her neighbors. So at some point, this is on 28th Street, the building is still there, but the painting is gone by now. But all her neighbors had similar things, and everybody was just putting it on and waving out as a kind of silent protest. Okay, that was a very nice shot down at the Jamaica Bay. You see JFK Airport in the background, and the train just returns from Rockaways. And I think we are coming to our end here. This is on City Island, very good. It's a defunct restaurant which is not in use for many years now. And I thought it was really nice because it's really like fading memories at this point. Here I need your help. I was trying to find out what this is. We are looking at something, and I go forward a little bit that you see what it really is. It's a building which has 5 windows in this wonderful glass. It's on Commerce Street here in the West Village. And I found out that it was two shoemakers who had built these 3 buildings. They rented out the middle one, and they both lived in the outer ones. But I couldn't find out what is happening with these windows. Does anybody know about this? I'm really curious. That's a very big question to you. Nobody knows, huh? So I will dive into that and find out more about it, but I found that really fascinating. And here, this is an easy one, pretty much for the end. Where could that be? Washington Square, right? There's the fountain right in the background. Okay, so I'm afraid I will just flip through the rest of it so that you just see them for a sec, but I know we are over time. This is just around the corner here on 9th Street. I wanted to talk about this place, which is absolutely wonderful, the Peter Moretti studio, by the 2 sculptors who shared it for 1 or 2 years. It was built in 1891 as a 2-story studio building before these artists split up and everybody went on with their careers. Any idea what this is? Blue Note on West 3rd Street, the canopy in the shape of a grand piano. Chumley's Speakeasy in the West Village, which is still not reopened.
Philip, the locksmith on 7th Avenue.
Yeah, very good. And here we have a bigger one. And here, now I give an extra point if you know the name of the safes.
See?
Of these safes. You see these safes standing here and there? They're called Patience and Fortitude. Okay, that's a longer story I have to skip today. That's in front of Village Cigars. Very interesting story about a bitter fight in court about a piece of land, this piece of land. Jefferson Market, the Colonnade Row on Lafayette Street, McDougal Street, SSC Manhattan, Savings Institute on Broadway. This should be well known. It's not much of a photo, but the interesting thing is it's a viewing glass which is now covered up after the last renovation of the Minetta Creek. It's on 2 Fifth Avenue, just north of Washington Square. This is on Carmine and Bleecker Street, the Our Lady of Pompeii Church. This is again on the Hudson River, the Pete Seeger rowboat being brought out to the water. This is again on 9th Street, the Stuyvesant Triangle. And this is taken right here in front. And if anybody knows what that is, I'm absolutely grateful for any help. Okay, I think we close this. And I say thank you very much.